Sorry, I was just bopping down to that cool music. Not. All right. Hello. So, first thing is first, you can see there's a slightly different look going on today. So I've not been happy with the sound that goes on in this room for such a long time. So my son got these gaming headphones for his Christmas present. So I thought I would try them and see how it sounds. So Vikram, I can see you're there. Can you actually hear me? Just a couple of people just send me a little message in the chat there just to let me know you can definitely hear me and I've set this whole thing up correctly. Okay, so hi. I take it that means you can hear me then. Vince Fahad. Right, good. Yes, okay, brilliant. Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, come on, I look ridiculous. Clearly, these headsets were not made for a middle-aged woman. However, I hate the sound when I play it back, so I'm hoping this might be a little bit clearer than what I get on my microphone here. Right, so welcome. This is my second session for 2022. Still trying to remind myself that it is in fact 2022. And we're lucky that the world of writing checks is now over, because otherwise I would be writing my checks with 2021 for the next 6 months. For any of you who don't know what a check is, used to be the way we paid people large sums of money. It was a piece of paper and you wrote how much money and you signed your name and you gave it to them, and then they gave it to their bank, and then their bank gave it to your bank. And it was a very complex process, but we don't do that anymore, thankfully. It's so much easier to spend money now than it used to be. All right, so hello everybody, I hope you're all well. I'm very excited about today. In case you haven't noticed, I have dropped down to only doing one session a week. It's going to happen Monday, every Monday. It's be this way for a little while. I have some family logistics challenges. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get back up to 2 sessions with a special partner who might be joining me, but that's not going to be for a little while. So I'm sorry now if the Monday isn't the ideal for you. Let's get going. Okay, so my intro. I am Gigi and I am the Amazon interview whiz. I guess you know that because you found me here on my YouTube channel. I was a senior leader at Amazon for a number of years. And not only did I hire extensively, I had a very large team in Amazon terms. I was an interviewer like everybody else in Amazon, but most specifically, I was a bar raiser. Now, hopefully you all know what a bar raiser is, so I won't spend too much time on it, but essentially a bar raiser gets involved in the very last stages of your interview process, and they will be the person who ultimately gets to decide whether you get hired or not. Now, the difference between a bar raiser and all other interviewers is bar raisers get to interview anywhere. So you can do tech or non-tech. You can pretty much interview in any country in the world, and you can interview any job family. If you're a normal interviewer hiring for your team, you'll generally only interview around your own skill set and maybe some adjunct teams. If you are a recruiter, you will only interview either for recruiters if you're hiring for your own team, or for the specific job family that it is your job to hire for the company for. So you might only ever talk to software development engineers or solutions designers or finance people or marketing people or vendor managers or brand specialists or loss prevention people, or you name it. But they're very, very focused. Now, the difference, obviously, as I've said, is as a bar raiser, you see it all. You go everywhere, you see everything. So you get a view of the interview process that pretty much no one else in the company gets. Only about 5% of Amazonians get to be bar raisers because it is a hard process to qualify for. Trust me. So I'm a bar raiser. I was a bar raiser. I don't work there anymore, Gigi. And I pretty much know exactly what it takes to get hired at Amazon. Whilst I was there, I began to notice that there were some candidates who did better. And it's clear to me those candidates had expert preparation. They knew the lingo, they knew the buzzwords, they were so well prepared, they knew the leadership principles, they had their star format, you name it, I could spot them. Got me curious. Any good Amazonian gets curious. Discovered it's not cheap, or at least back then it wasn't cheap because I hadn't arrived yet, to get expert Amazon interview coaching, particularly at my level of specialty. minimum, for my level of specialty, probably, I don't know, 300 to 750 an hour in terms of coaching. I wanted to make it fairer, so I created my YouTube channel, tons of free content here. You've watched it. I also created my, excuse me, I'm going to cough. You don't want me to cough with this headset on. Hang on a second. All right. I created my own Amazon Interview Whiz Academy. Basically, digital courses, incredibly affordable for most of the people in the Western world, tells you everything that you need to know to slam dunk your Amazon interview. And I'll give you an amazing freebie at the end. So please, please stay until the end. Part of my mission, give you guys the content and the access that you need. So I do these free sessions in order to do that. How this works, you can ask me questions, any question you fancy, down in the questions column there on the right-hand side. I'll pick them. I will try and answer them. I think I'll probably be able to answer, let's go for 95% of the questions. Sometimes people ask me really specific technical questions about their specific technical interview or the nature of their particular job family interview. And sometimes I just can't answer them. There's thousands of job families in Amazon and no one human being can know them all. So in that case, I'll try and tell you, I'm sorry, I can't answer it. We'll move on. Please, please, please don't ask me general questions. Hey, Gigi, I've got an interview tomorrow for a solutions designer. Any tips? Yeah, sure. Hours of them on the YouTube channel. So please don't ask me general questions because I'm just going to point you to the YouTube channel. All right. On that note, why don't we rock on and get going? I'll try and say hello to people as they arrive. I like to be polite. Us Brits, we do prioritize that. So sorry if that's distracting. There are a whole bunch of people here today, which is so exciting. So I will say hello, but we will try and get into this. I usually run it for about an hour. So let's see how we go. So please start writing your questions here. Lots of lovely hellos. Thank you so much for saying hello. So quickly, whilst a few of you are writing your questions, so I get behind you, and there's a bunch of content for me to be able to work through, I'm just going to say hellos. So whilst I'm saying hello, you're writing questions. So we have Vikram and Fahad and Vince. Oh, we've got a name here, Tawez. Oh gosh, I'm gonna murder that one. Your mother will never forgive me. Tawezera. I'm so sorry if I murdered that, but at least I did try. Universal Gnome, hello again. Happy New Year. Lovely to see you back. We've got Tom Borland, Dan. Hello, Dan. Lovely to meet you. Loik, I'm going for Loik there. Greetings and Happy New Year to you too. Sneha, thank you for joining. Srinivasa, would that be right? Welcome, welcome. A few more hellos and then we will hopefully jump to the questions. We've got Narinda. Hello, Narinda. Lovely to see you. And Kalani, would that be right? And then, hey, Vince, how's it going? All right, let me get to my first questions. Please do keep chucking the questions in there. Is that I don't know if that's a very British word, chucking. It means kind of just put them in. Sorry if I come up with some Britishisms that don't make sense. I'll try not to. Alvaro. I've been seeing you on the Academy as well, Alvaro. Oh, look, I'm getting my head cut off. Hang on, let me drop that down. Hopefully that's better. It's lovely to see you, Alvaro. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so pleased to see you here. Oh, don't be angry at yourself, Alvaro. It's never too late, right? The only time where it's too late to get yourself prepared for an Amazon interview is 10 minutes before the session starts. Now, clearly, you've got to prepare as early as possible, but it's never too late. If you find a good resource, you'd be amazed how much you can learn and how much you can optimize for yourself in just 24 hours. So thank you so much for joining, Alvaro. I genuinely really, really appreciate the moral support. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is a good question. Hello, Georges, I'm going for. So once an Amazon interviewer asked you in a technical interview, by the way, I read these out in case anybody's just listening to them rather than watching it on YouTube, about your skills in documenting, which leadership principle was he testing me for? He's not actually testing you on a specific leadership principle. directly. And I'll talk to you about kind of the difference between directly and indirectly. So you may have heard, and if you haven't, you'll learn now. Amazon makes all of its decision through a document writing process. They have two key kind of structures of documents, either a 6-pager or a 2-pager. And those are used to make decisions. So pretty much any decision that's made in Amazon requires someone to write a document, whether it's creating a new product, which is created through a document called a PRFAQ, whether it is a business report, a weekly business report, or a quarterly business report. So WBR, QBRs, they're all written documents. Whether it's someone's promotion, a promotion is a written document between the candidate and their manager. Every decision that's made in Amazon is made because someone has written a document. A whole group of other people generally have gotten to a room and spend 30 minutes in absolute silence reading that document and writing their comments on it. And then they spend 30 minutes discussing it. So a very, very key skill in Amazon is the ability to write documents in a narrative form, which is why a lot of you will be asked to do a writing sample if you make it all the way to the final stage. So the reason why they're asking you this question is I would suggest you were interviewing for a role where document writing is particularly important. It's important in most roles, but in roles, particularly kind of product management roles, being able to write documents really, really well and synthesize up really complex concepts into narratives that people who know nothing about your subject matter can actually follow and understand in an hour's meeting is a critical skill. So that's why he's testing that. Now, the value of that question, I have to tell you, I would doubt greatly, because whatever you think your skills are at document writing may not actually be your true skills and strengths when it comes to document writing. So personally, I think that's a waste of time in terms of asking that question, because the proof is in the pudding with the writing sample that you will have submitted. Now, that said, that it isn't a particular leadership principle he's testing you on. Being able to write documents, communicate clearly and concisely does lead very clearly into earn trust as a leadership principle. So in order to trust that you know what you're talking about, that you have done a thorough review of whatever document you've written, or you've really thought through the product proposal and the PRFAQ that you're presenting, as long as you can do that, you build trust and confidence in your audience. If you're the type of person that cannot tell that narrative clearly and coherently, and you go into a meeting that ends up like complete chaos because no one really understands the document because it's not well created, you will burn trust. It will be a negative on the earn trust side. So although, Georges, I don't think he was particularly testing you for earn trust, it was a speculative question around the fact that this is the way Amazon makes decisions. Nonetheless, being able to write good, clear, concise narratives and use that kind of process of presenting information in order to convince people to do things that you want them to are excellent examples that you can use if you are talking about earns trust, and there's a particular question that leads well into that. So I know that was a little bit long-winded, but hopefully that answers your question. Thank you very much for asking it. Moving on then. Diana, hello, welcome. Shirley, hello. Welcome back, Shirley. I think I recognize your name from before the new year. So what have we got here? Oh, Leila. Hello. Oh, I'm so excited. So sorry, I get a bit excited. I'm very emotionally connected to the people that join my community, whether you are an Amazon Interview Wiz Academy member and I get to know you a little bit better, or whether you just come regularly to my lives. There are people that I just get to know, even at a high level. And I get very excited when they come back and see me again. And Leila is one of my very early success stories. Actually, I haven't been running my academy for a huge amount of time. I think it's only been 9 months. So 8-month anniversary. And you said you dropped back to say hi. I love people that remember me and care enough to come back and say hello. So I'm so happy. Congratulations for your 8 months. You have made it to I always tell this to people, this will be useful for new starters. In any job, there's a curve, right? You start and you think you're the bee's knees because you made it in, and then you realize, oh my God, I've got so much to learn. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you get to about 6 months, and then suddenly a light switches and it's like, pyong, and you're off on this huge growth curve, and that hits around 6 months. And I always do that coaching to new starters in Amazon's just to prepare them for that. So Leila has made it past that critical nadir. You're on the way up in your incredible growth trajectory, Leila, and I'm so happy to see you. I'm so delighted, and you're awesome. Congratulations. Welcome back, and keep me posted on how it's going. I love hearing back from you. Appreciate it, Leila. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Okay, good question. So I'm not going to try and repronounce your name because I figure I probably offended you the first time. So I'll bypass that. Gigi, is it allowed to share with your interviewer your metrics or results in the form of graphs, pie charts, and such things like photos, etc., as your evidence? It shouldn't be necessary. The examples that you're giving, you're supposed to be focused on your behaviors. What did you do? How did you think? How did you talk to someone? What actions did you take? What systems did you use? You know, all of these different kind of behaviors. The data points that you use are there to validate your results. What did you actually achieve at the end of the day? All the data points are there to contextualize the problem so that you can tell us the start position. Other than that, the actual kind of changes that you make, you're not going to need to show someone the graph for the change. You can say it started here and it ended here. Or if you want to say it was 20% of our total revenue, you don't need to show them a pie chart in order to be able to narrative that 20%. So I struggle to think about a scenario where when you're talking about your behaviors as associated with the leadership principles, that a graph or a pie chart is ever going to be additive to the evidence, because you're trying to evidence your behaviors. You're not trying to evidence the data point itself, if that makes sense. So generally, I would say I can't really see a scenario where it would ever add value. And I've certainly never had a candidate present graphs, charts, etc. to me. And I've recruited on finance roles, data engineers, data scientists, BIEs, the whole lot, kind of the most data-centric teams that you can think of. And no one's ever needed to show me a pie chart. I hope that helps. Okay, hello, Alex. Lovely to see you. Sam's back. Hello, Sam. How you doing? We've got George. Oh, George's again. Okay. Oh my goodness, and bytebitten's back. This is crazy, people. I guess maybe it's because of the new year and everyone's kind of kicking things off. But here's another Amazon interview with person, bytebitten. You started last week. It's been a very interesting week, and you can see how the LPs are actively integrated into your work. Awesome. It's so good to see you all again. I'm so excited. Thank you for coming back. Happy New Year. All right, come on. I need to get to some questions here. I'm getting too excited with seeing all my old friends. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So you're moving to the final interview and they asked you to check your Excel file to use it there. Do you have any idea what exactly will I have to prove? Look, it depends on what role you're going for. There's not really enough data for me here to be able to hypothesize why you'll have to use Excel. Perhaps I'm, hypothesizing here, you might be going for a brand specialist role, or you might be going for a finance role, some type of role where Excel skills are particularly important. And they've asked you to bring along Excel so that they can give you some kind of a sample so that you can then show them your Excel skills live. So without knowing exactly what role you're going for, it's impossible for me to give you specific guidance, but it's probably going to be along those lines. And if you know your role, which I'm sure you do, you'll probably be able to make the leap to what type of thing they'll be expecting you to do live. I hope that helps. Moving on then. Yes, yes. Guess the leadership principle game. I love this game. This always happens. All right, so thank you. Oh dear, I just slammed my desk and you all shuddered. Right. I'm glad you find my channel helpful. You wanted to ask what the panel expect when they ask short-term it's not short-time sacrifice, it's short-term sacrifice for a long-term benefit. Which leadership principle does this question belong to? This is ownership. So ownership is all about owning, taking a decision on and really thinking about the long-term consequences of that decision. So making sure that the decisions that you make today are the right decisions long-term. So when you're long gone and you don't have to deal with any of the consequences, how's the decision that you've made today going to still be the right decision for your successors, or are you going to stuff them up completely? Or ownership thinking long term, your job is to represent the long-term best interests of Amazon. Even when you're not there, whatever decision that you make today has to keep giving value additively to Amazon. So being a great owner is thinking about, well, if I made this decision today, it's probably good for me. Maybe let's think sales, right? This is a good example of it. So a salesperson might be presented an opportunity to make a sale today, but they know in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, 6 months' time, a new product is coming out that would be much better for that customer. But if they tell the customer to wait, they might miss their targets for this period. A great owner says, do you know what? I'm going to suck it up. I'm not going to make that sale today and claw in that value and potentially miss my target, because actually, long term, this thing that's coming in 6 months' time is a better solution for the customer. I'll end up with a happier customer, which will stay at Amazon for longer, and there'll be more long-term revenue for Amazon. That's what ownership is all about. So I hope that helps. So you would sacrifice the short-term benefit in order for long-term benefit. Hope that helps. Ooh, okay. Okay. We have Juan and Alia. Oh, what a lovely picture in Paris as well. Now, I'm assuming that's Paris and that is the Eiffel Tower behind you rather than Blackpool and the Blackpool Tower. It's quite hard to tell the difference with that little corner. Anybody who doesn't know what Blackpool Tower is, please just Google it. I'm assuming most of you know what the Eiffel Tower is. Right, so how many behavior questions are normally asked in the first interview with the hiring manager? Okay, hugely variable, because early rounds can pretty much be played however the team wants to play them, because there isn't any oversight from a bar raiser, and bar raisers drive standardization. Early rounds not overseen from a bar raiser, so it tends to be a little bit of the Wild West. Now, some teams will focus their first rounds, particularly if they're technical teams, on technical questions only. They might do a little dive into your resume, ask you all of those trite questions, which I'm sure you all know I hate. Why Amazon? Tell me about yourself. Walk me through your resume. And then kind of try and knead into your technical skills. And that might be the full 45 minutes, 1 hour of your interview. Other teams try and mix it up a little bit. They might ask some of, again, those trite questions, which I hate, and cover off your technical skills a little bit, and then maybe just ask you one behavioral question. Usually it would be from the most important leadership principle that they care about the most. And other teams will actually focus all of their early stage interviews all on behavioral questions, because they feel that they can get enough information through the behavioral questions in terms of knowledge of your technical skills. So unhelpfully for you, I'm sorry to say, I cannot tell you exactly how many questions to expect, because it will depend on what format your early round falls into. So the minimum is 0 on the behavioral side. I would suggest the maximum question you could probably expect in those early rounds, if you are going for a non-technical role, if your examples aren't particularly complicated, or you're an L5-ish, more junior entry role, which is kind of somewhat intertwined in terms of complexity of answers, anywhere up to 4 or 5 questions. So that's the first part of your question. And question 2, how many examples would I advise to prepare for each principle? Good question. So I recommend everybody has a minimum of 2 examples available for each of the leadership principles that they anticipate that they will be asked. Now, I put that little caveat on the end of anticipate what you will be asked, because of course there are 16 leadership principles, and even at loop, which is the final round panel, whichever term you're used to, the most leadership principles you're probably going to cover off in a loop would be, if you're in a very senior role, possibly you might meet, the biggest panel I ever did was 8 people. And each of those 8 people gets 2 leadership principles. So that would be the full 16. Most people don't end up with panels that large. If you're kind of an L5, L6, you'll probably only have a panel of 5 people. If you're in a junior entry role, L4s, they're starting to squeeze their panels down to just 3 people. But each person is going to be assigned, or should be assigned, 2 leadership principles. So you can assume, average, you're going to be asked 10 leadership principles. So the challenge for you is to try and deep dive. Well, first of all, ask your recruiter, what are the leadership principles that I should be preparing for? Some will tell you. I reckon it's about 50-50. Some won't, which is when you need to go to my channel and go to my playlist, where I have 2 videos where I live deconstruct people's job descriptions to show you how you can work out which leadership principles are probably going to be the critical ones that they're going to ask you on. And once you've done that, that should give you a good core of probably 8 to 10 leadership principles to really make sure you've got 2 examples each for. And then there's probably just going to have to make a bit of a judgment call on which additional leadership principles you want to make sure you've got examples for, just in case either you're wrong or they go beyond the 10 leadership principles for your loop. Okay, hopefully that covers all of that off for you. Thank you very much for asking the question. Let's move on. Oh, okay. This is interesting, Loic. So you used my course. Hey! Amazon Interviewers Academy. I will give everybody a freebie for that at the end, by the way. So do not leave. As you can see, it's very successful. Okay, but after the negotiation, you politely and professionally declined. Okay, so congratulations for landing a role. That's incredible in terms of an offer. It's very few people that manage to do that. The end-to-end funnel. I'm sorry, I'm going to freak you all out now. I feel bad about this, but just so Loic knows how well he did. The end-to-end funnel, the last data point that I managed to get was about 1% of applicants. So everyone that submits their resume, which is bazoodles of people, only about 1% of those actually get to an offer. So you did an amazing job to get to an offer, as did all of my other candidates here who have returned, and you professionally and politely declined, as is your right. And I'm very glad you professionally and politely declined. What would be a timeline to reapply for a role after declining? There's no timeline here. I mean, you nailed it. You managed to get an offer, which is pretty amazing. And it was on kind of your decision that you didn't want to move forward with that offer. So there's no timeline. You could apply again tomorrow, quite honestly. The only thing I'm going to say to you, Loic, is if you applied for a particular role, which is your skill set, and you declined because you didn't like the offer, and then you want to apply for the same type of role in the same location, and you're probably going to end up with the same level, because in theory, level is universal across Amazon, then chances are you won't get a much better offer than you got the last time. So, you know, just think about that, right? Just make sure that if you're going to apply for something else because you felt that the offer wasn't where you wanted it to be, think about being a bit more dynamic in terms of where you make your application. Clearly, from my experience in this, there are certain roles that pay materially more than other roles. If I was to die and be reborn again, I would not be reborn as a marketer. I'll tell you that for nothing. So a little bit of advice for you, Loic, but go for it. Like, I would almost say kind of the sooner the better, because you got an offer, you're very hot. All the evidence you have must be awesome evidence. So, you know, Go for it. No constraints on yourself. I hope that helps. Okay, moving on then. Okay. So, Universal Gnome, you saw a video today saying that for a sales-based role, answers should be shorter, 1 minute long. Is there a difference on how sales answers should be? No, I don't agree with this. I don't know who you saw that from. Don't know, don't care. I think that's dreadful advice, quite personally. I've interviewed plenty of salespeople and bar raised on a number of sales roles, mostly Amazon advertising sales roles. And no, there's no difference because you're still talking about your behaviors. So one way or another, I don't see how it's any different from any other job family. So sorry, I think that's a load of trash. My personal opinion. You don't have to name and shame here, but I don't agree with that. You have to make up your own mind. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Hey, Rita. This is interesting. So you've an interview coming up and you've been advised by your recruiter to work on expressing your motivation and flexibility to the specific role I'm applying for. Any tips on how to do that? Okay, so I'm reading a bit between the lines here, Rita. If someone's telling you that you need to work on expressing your motivation and flexibility to the specific role, I'm guessing your resume isn't a strong match to the role that you're applying for and that you're doing a little bit of a career pivot, reading between the lines. So my guidance on how you do that, best tip I have for you, Rita, is to look for the transferable skills. So look at your job experience and what you've done in the past, and look at the role that you're applying for, and think about the different skills or the matching skills that exist between these two roles. Then talk about how much you enjoyed that type of work when you're going through your examples, or particularly when they ask you the why this role question. I think that'll be the most critical time for you. Again, I'm not a fan of those questions, but nonetheless, they do get asked. So when they're asking you the why this role, what I would suggest you focus on, Rita, is all of the elements that you really loved about your previous kind of skills area, and how and where you see the relevance and the connection with the new role that you're applying for, and why you're so excited about being able to apply those knowledge and skills from your past into this new career, and how that career will set you up moving forward. So that would be my advice as regards that question. As I say, I did read between the lines, so I apologize if I've kind of somewhat misinterpreted that. Okay, so moving on. Hang on, there's lots of shortcuts on words here. Okay. So your loop is on the 26th. Your RC recruitment coordinator told you if you have any questions related to the role, I'm getting good at this, specific, that you can contact your primary recruiter. This is brilliant. And shared email. Should you mail and ask about the key leadership principles for the role, or should you wait and expect them to tell you first? It was like a brain puzzle. That was fun, Ruben. Thank you. You should message them. Look, I'm a big advocate for own your own process, right? Take control of it. Don't step back. Don't wait for somebody to give you a gift or give you permission, right? Take ownership. So if you want to know the leadership principles, definitely I would say reach out and ask politely, could they share with you what they are? They might say no, but it won't be a problem if they say no. No one's going to hold it against you. I hope that helps. Okay. Oh, Vince, you finished your loop on Friday and you're waiting for results. Good luck. Good luck. Okay. I'm just reading through someone's two-part question. Okay. I don't really understand this one. I'm going to go for Vuga. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. Okay, so I'm just going to read this to everybody and then I'm going to ask you to just clarify a little bit further down. So you went to a second phone screen. You've got a second phone screen interview tomorrow. However, this one is actually the second phone screen. Okay, I'm confused already. I don't know about the rest of you. You were told by the RC that the second phone screen interview got rescheduled right after you finished. What does that mean? I have no idea. I think what you're saying to me is you're having a third interview now. So you've already met two people and now you're meeting a third person, but it's not your loop. So I've got to be honest with you, I have no idea what that's all about. I don't understand how a interview can be rescheduled after you've just finished it, because you've just finished it. Why would it need to be rescheduled? So I'm a little bit baffled on that one, Buga, and I would actually, if I were you, send a message to your recruiter and tell them you're baffled. Why are you meeting 3 people in early rounds? And hopefully all will become clear. Okay, moving on then. Shirley's joining them when they're actually live. Awesome, Shirley. Well done. Okay, sorry, there's someone who's got a 3-part question now. Okay. Oh, so many parts to this. So many parts. Okay. So you've been working on your examples for 3 weeks and reviewing my material and making some notes. Okay. Not clear on what exact materials, whether you're an Academy member or whether you're using all my free stuff, but okay. You find yourself getting very confused with which examples to use for which leadership principle, and you're working towards formatting your examples and being able to modify them. Okay, that's fine. You're also not sure if you should filter the answers you already used in the previous interview. Is it still okay to use the answers that you used in your first round? Okay, in your final interview. All right, let me simplify this up because there's loads there. So can you reuse the answers you used in your first round? So my broad guidance, I think I say this pretty much every week, is that if you can avoid repeating examples, you should. Amazon is looking for as much data to prove that you are consistently, over a long period of time, a high performer. So if you can achieve that by giving them unique examples for every time, that's amazing. That's the best scenario. Now, the truth is most people can't do that. It's just not realistic for the vast majority of people, and they have to reuse examples. So yes, particularly if you've already used those examples in early rounds, people tend to, very rightly, use their best examples in the early rounds. So if you're going to use that again, what you need to do is reshape that example towards a different leadership principle. So I used this example when I was coaching a candidate a little bit earlier on today, just to help him understand the difference. So the scenario I talked to him about was that, imagine you're a solutions designer and you came up with a new solutions for a customer. You can tell the story as a customer obsession story because you need to talk about why the customer needed the solution, what they asked you for. Maybe you pushed back and helped them understand that what they wanted wasn't really what they needed. And you maybe had to you had to challenge your inside of your business to champion your customer because you wanted to sell them something that was a lower margin than something else that the business wanted them to buy. So you really had to champion your customer and be really obsessed with your customer about that. You tell it as a customer obsession story. Next time round, you can tell it as an invent and simplify story because then you can focus on the actual solution you came up with. So what was the solution you created for your customer? Why did you think that was the best solution? What other options did you consider before you chose that solution? What problems did you have potentially implementing that solution? And how did you get through those problems and simplify yourself out to the point where you could actually deliver the solution? You mentioned very little about your customer. You mentioned very little about championing your customer internally, and you talk all about the solution. So that's how you can use a single example, but really focus on the different elements of the different leadership principles so that although you are repeating, it actually sounds like a very different example because you're talking about very, very different behaviors. Okay, so hopefully that answers that. In terms of finding yourself confused for what leadership principle to use for which example to use for which leadership principle, the only thing really you can do there is, Udayana, is really, really understand the leadership principles, really, really deep dive into the behaviors from each of the leadership principles. I have in my Amazon Interview Wiz Academy supporting materials, this little tick box thing that if you're an Academy member, you can use, where literally I detail all of the behaviors. And by the way, everyone, you'll get a version of this because you'll get the Customer Obsession one for free. All of the behaviors that they're looking for in that particular leadership principle. And you can literally think about your example and say to yourself, did I demonstrate this behavior in that example? And you can use the tick boxes. And the more ticks you can get under a particular leadership principle for a particular example tells you that that example is going to be very strong for that leadership principle. And it's just a bit of a methodical process way of deciding which example to use for which leadership principle, because in most cases, your examples will cover multiple leadership principles. So that's a practical solution for you, which I hope helps. Okay, moving on then. Oh, okay. Hey, Sam. So, third interview for a marketing role. I mean, marketing, best career ever. It is, because I love doing it. Doesn't pay as well as a software development engineer, gotta be honest with you, but hey ho, loved it, love marketing. So once a question has been asked related to a specific leadership principle, will that leadership principle be crossed off the list and not explored again? Through the third interview. Okay, so, right, two parts to this, Sam. If you were asked this leadership principle in your earlier rounds, it will come back in the final round, right? Because sensible hiring managers will choose the most important leadership principles that matter for their role and put them in the early rounds, because it's a great knockout exercise. If somebody in an early round can't make you feel like they're bar raising in the most important elements of the job, then there's no point in taking them through the rest of the process. They've proven that they're not going to make it through the whole process. So you front load the most important leadership principles. But because they're the most important leadership principles, you want to test them again, because they'll only have given you maybe one, maybe two examples against that leadership principle. And if they're the most important ones, you're going to want to believe that they can consistently raise the bar on all of those leadership principles. So they will come back again, right? That's from early rounds through to loop. When you're in loop, different story, because everyone is assigned a unique leadership principle. And because they have a unique leadership principle, there are specific questions aligned to each leadership principle. And therefore, in theory, no one should ever be asking you the same question twice. And they certainly shouldn't be asking you the same leadership principle twice, because your recruiter will have assigned them a unique leadership principle just for them. That might not seem the case to you, because there are some leadership principles that have a lot of similar aspects to them, and some of the questions sound pretty similar. So, for example, there are questions in the bias for action part of the Amazon interview question bank that sound very, very similar to questions in the I'll write a lot questions in the Amazon interview question banks. There are questions in the invent and simplify, no, insist on the highest standards that sound very similar to some questions in the ownership. So in the background, you should not have people assigned the same leadership principle. In the foreground where you sit, it might feel like they are, because some of the questions are so similar. I hope that answers the questions across those multiple dimensions for you. Hey, Richard. So you wanted to say a quick hello from the Amazon HQ in Europe. I definitely recognize your face, Richard. So that's amazing, because it looks like, I think you're one of my candidates who's come back. But Amazon HQ in Europe, which HQ is that? Talking principal place in London? Are you talking Madrid? Are you talking Berlin? Are you talking Luxembourg? Where are you? Would love to know. Oh, this is lovely. Oh, I'm the best. I'm blushing. Can you see? I'm blushing. Okay. Oh, I'm excited. I guessed right. There we go, Killaney. So you're a brand specialist. So just to circle back to your question about the Excel spreadsheet, this is what I can tell you you're going to face as a brand specialist. They will come up with a bit of a case study, a scenario for you around a client, because as a brand specialist, it's a paid service where you're supporting Amazon customers to build their brands on Amazon. So they'll come up with a scenario for you about a hypothetical customer of yours who has a particular ambition, and they're going to ask you effectively to come up with a strategy for how to achieve that ambition. And they'll give you a whole bunch of data points. It could be volume, it could be margin, it could be price, it could be stock volumes, it could be all sorts of different data points. And they'll give you this scenario, and basically you need to make a decision around the challenge that they give you, and those data points you'll need to guide you to make the right decision, which is why you've got a spreadsheet in front of you. So I'm excited that I was able to clarify that, and I was on the button. Right, now, just going to pause ever so briefly because I have a favor to ask of all of you. Now, I give you all of this content for free, and it's super exciting to know that people get jobs. Hundreds of people have got jobs in 2021 from my channel, which is amazingly exciting. I just hit 10,000 subscribers, by the way, as well, which is ridiculously exciting. So thank you, everybody, if you did subscribe and you helped me hit that 10K. I was very excited. I need your help. In order for my content to surface above a whole bunch of the other, quite frankly, I'll call it crud, that does somehow appear in front of me in the algorithm, I need you to put comments into my videos. I need you to like my videos. It's a positive signal into the algorithm, which says Gigi publishes good stuff, and we're going to promote her stuff above some of the other stuff, which ain't so good, like that advice to make a sales answer 1 minute long, as an example. So I'm going to ask you very, very quickly if you could please just like this stream, right? And then that's it. I will let us move on. But I have a little soundtrack that goes along with liking the stream, because otherwise I started to sing songs and wave my hands and it wasn't pretty. So I did a little thing for you. So I'm going to play this. And whilst I'm playing this, it's not long. Please do just give the stream a little thumbs up. So here we go. Like the stream. Like the stream. Like the stream. There we go. So if you didn't like the stream yet, hi. If you did, thank you very much. I hope that wasn't too crazy for most of you. I have to entertain myself somehow. I'm a kind of entrepreneur, solopreneur, so I have to do things to entertain myself. Okay, so, okay, I'll do this one quickly. Srinivasad, sorry if I pronounced this wrong. You came up with 6 pages. What's the recommended number of pages for writing exercises? 2 pages. There's a 2-page limit. They should have told you that in the information that they sent you. I think it's like 2 pages or 8,000. I don't know what it is. It's 2 pages, right? I can't think of the number of word count that they say. 2 pages only. Strip it back. Okay, moving on then. Oh, I am having the best day. This is just the best day I've had, short of New Year's Day, where I drank champagne all day long, starting at breakfast time and probably finishing the bottle at about 6 p.m. That was fun. I had a terrible headache the next day. This is the best day I've had so far. Fish Daddy, you are now an incoming Amazonian, and you are an Amazon Interview With Academy member. I'm so happy. Congratulations. Amazing achievement. And you are set for an incredible, incredible career. So thank you so much for coming back and letting me know. It's lifting me up hugely. Good luck. Okay, so what else do we have here? I'm just conscious of time. So we've got another 10 minutes or so left, and we've got loads of questions. Okay, God, I'm going to have to go faster. I'm so sorry. I get into a lot of detail because there is a nuance and a detail around this, but I am aware it limits me in terms of how many questions I can get through. So I'll try and speed up. Okay, yep, I can do this one quickly. Sam, cheeky second question. Of course, you can be cheeky, Sam. Does the hiring manager have more weighted say in the process if it gets to loop? No. Well, yes and no. I'll lie. Yes, they do. At the end of the day, there are only 2 people you have to convince to hire you. And you know what? I'll rewind. Does the hiring manager have more say? Yes. Not from a quantitative point of view. You know, their evidence doesn't have like twice the value of anyone else's evidence. From a decision-making point of view, yes. The hiring manager has to want to hire you. So if everybody else in the loop wants to hire you and the hiring manager is adamant they don't want to hire you, you're not going to get hired. If the hiring manager really wants to hire you, but on balance, with all of the evidence considered, the bar raiser thinks that you are not the right person for Amazon, you are not going to get hired. So if I was forced to do a hierarchy of decision makers, it's going to be bar raiser number 1, hiring manager number 2, and then everybody else collectively together as a group number 3. So if you're going to convince anybody, it has to be the hiring manager and the bar raiser. But just doing amazingly on your hiring manager and bar raiser interviews and not doing amazingly on the other interviews is not going to do it for you, because they make their decision based on all of the evidence, not just the evidence that they happen to gather at their particular interview. Hope that helps, Sam. Okay. What else do we have here? Oh, yes. This is a great question, and one so many people have. And God, I wish I had the answer for you. So your first time listener, well, welcome. Thank you very much for taking the leap and taking the risk on spending some time with me. I'm grateful for that. How do you determine the level based on the job description? You're currently going into the second interview for a CNS group manager. So, Amazon has a standard nomenclature that they use to describe roles, right? And that is a something manager is L4 or L5. A senior something manager is an L6. A senior manager something is an L7, or a principal something is also an L7. And then you get onto directors and SVPs. Now, that's the standard core nomenclature. But a whole bunch of roles do not fit into that standard nomenclature at all. And unless you have a good sense of kind of the experience that tends to be required at those different levels, it's almost impossible, because in many job descriptions these days, they don't even put the number of years experience that they want, because in certain countries, that's considered a age discriminatory practice. So if you're lucky enough to be interviewing for something like a finance role or a vendor manager role or a marketing role, they definitely follow the nomenclature. For CNS group manager, that doesn't follow the nomenclature. So it would be very, very hard, I would suggest, from your job description to do that. On the flip side, job level doesn't really matter. Right there, I said it. You'll all go, oh, you're so wrong, Gigi. But I'm not, right? Because what really matters in any job is the work challenging, and is it going to give you growth? And are they going to pay you what is reasonable for you to get paid? If you can achieve both of those, then it doesn't matter whether it's an L7, an L8, an L4 against the actual job title. You want a job that challenges you and a job that pays you fairly. That's it. So I wish I could give you the answer. I can't. I'm not sure it matters a huge amount. At least it doesn't to me. I know other people might feel differently. Okay, so just reading Sam's post about being reborn as a marketer. Sam, honestly, yeah. I mean, marketing's awesome, but it don't pay that well compared to some of those engineering roles. Okay. Yeah. I'll cover this one. Hey, could you request for a sign-on cash bonus to be paid on your first paycheck? Your current offer letter, they've mentioned it will be paid in installments. No, you can't. I'm afraid they're not going to front load all of that, a whole year's cash, into your first paycheck. That's not negotiable, I'm afraid, Vijeth. Sorry. Okay. Okay. This one's really tough. So Alejandro, thank you. You bought my ultimate package. Good choice. You're applying also for a brand specialist. And to my point that I was saying earlier, there is an Excel element to the interview. How can you prepare for it? I haven't created mock case studies myself for this type of role. Maybe I will one day, but it doesn't scale very well. So my best advice is trawl the internet and see if you can find any case studies out there. They tend to be business kind of case studies that you might probably see for people doing kind of business studies roles, management roles in universities. So you might be able to go out and just try and find some questions on business studies, marketing, sales type courses at universities. They often have those open source, and practice using those. Effectively, the challenge is, can you get your head around different KPIs and metrics, what those KPIs and metrics actually mean commercially to a customer and commercially to your business, and how those metrics interact with each other? And if you can understand those, you can come to a good conclusion for problem solving. So you kind of have to know this stuff, or you don't know this stuff, right? It's not really something that you can learn for an interview preparation course, but it's definitely a muscle that you can exercise by going through those types of maybe mock papers. I thought of that on the spot, but it seems to me to be the best source of those type of scenario builds that you could then practice with. Maybe at some point, if I have some free time, I might try collating some myself. I hope that helps a little bit. Okay. Jacopo. Have I got that right? Jacopo? How do interviews for internships differ from interviews from permanent positions? Yeah, that's it. You're absolutely right, Jacopo. It's just going to be, they would just expect less complex answers effectively. But because you're still joining Amazon, whether you're an intern or a blue badger, you're still going to have to be able to perform and deliver for your team. That team will perform and deliver underneath the kind of the framework of the leadership principles. So they still need to ask you questions about the leadership principles. So you need to prep the leadership principles. But as you say, my advice about how long an example should be, perhaps you as an intern would be on the shorter end of that example length. Okay, conscious of time, we've only got 3 minutes. Okay, let me just jump down and try and see if there's anybody that I haven't answer questions for yet. And then the rest of you have to come back next week. Or if your question is a burning case that you need the answer to, you could always ask me the question on YouTube, as in on one of the videos. So let me just have a quick scan. I'm singing a song here. Oh, Rob T got a role. I'm sorry, I'm wasting time. I'm really sorry, but I wanted to bring these people up because quite honestly, it just makes me feel good. So congrats, Rob T. Thank you so much for joining and letting me know. I'm so proud of all of you. Okay. Okay, yes, I can do this one. So I'm going to go with, what is the percentage of numerical reasoning tests for the decision of the recruitment process? It's not a weighted contribution. It doesn't work like that. There isn't 25% for the numerical test and 60% for the behaviorals. There's a bar that you have to reach and you have to hit, and you just have to pass that. Then if there are concerns about your capability on dive deep from a leadership principle point of view, the bar raiser might talk to the recruiter and say to the recruiter, we don't feel great about their dive deep analytics capabilities. How did they do in the numerical test? At which point that becomes a little bit of extra data to help either support the case that you're stronger in your numerics than your interview, should your behavioral interview suggest us, or it reconfirms for them that actually that isn't your strength. But there's no weighted contribution kind of calculation going on. Okay, moving on. Okay, Harmon. Hello, I think I recognize you as well. So you've repeated stories in 2 rounds of the loop. Is it simply the rejection? I have 2 other rounds coming next week. Any suggestions? No, look, it's not automatic rejection. There's not a, tick box that says, repeat, tick, you're out. It doesn't work like that. What will happen is when they review it in debrief, they will all notice that you've used the same story repeatedly, and they will have to get themselves comfortable with why you used the same story repeatedly. Now, if they all feel good that you've got a good range of other examples, and this is just one story that happened to be so amazing that it was totally valid that you should use it multiple times, then it's just not going to be an issue. But they might actually notice a pattern where you just repeat the same 4 stories over and over and over. And they might say, well, this is a senior position. I don't know if it is, but this is an L6 position. We need somebody who has got a good, consistent history of high performance. And this person looks like they're a bit of a one-trick pony because all they've ever been able to do is roll us out the same 4 examples. So please don't take from this that it's like 2 strikes and you're out. It is not that binary. But what I offer is guidance for you to try and increase the probability that you will be able to give the range of consistent data that Amazon is looking for to be convinced that someone raises the bar. Okay. Moving on then. Okay, so we're almost at the bottom now. Excellent. So, and we're bang on time. So I'm gonna just going to see if there's any questions that I haven't answered, because I think someone's just asked me a question at the bottom that I answered a minute ago. Okay. Yeah. No, I think I've covered everything. So do not go, right? I'm going to give you an amazing freebie that I promise you, everybody who's just been on here who said they managed to get themselves a role, pretty sure took this freebie. So I'm giving it to you now. Oh, I need to get rid of that comment. Hang on. Got to get rid of it. All right. There we go. Right. Go to, am I going to get it right? I never get it right. I can't coach with the 3 dimensions and the 2 dimensions. Go to AmazonInterviewWizAcademy.com. Go there now. You can get my Customer Obsession Masterclass completely free. Totally free. No chaser emails, no catches, nothing, right? Just go and get it. It's free. It will tell you the 4 facets of customer obsession. Every single leadership principle actually has a complex set of facets in it. 4 is the highest, 2 is the lowest. I've created this learning model called Facets. It's unique to me. No one else has it unless they stole it from me. But it really breaks down the leadership principles into smaller, more understandable ways. So it tells you the facets, 4 of them for customer obsession. Then it tells you pretty much what the interviewer is looking for in your behaviors for customer obsession, right? So pretty much what they're looking for you to say in your interview. And then finally, there's a mock, me interviewing me, so that you can see how the whole thing can play out in an interview scenario. So go and get it. I give customer obsession because it's the most important leadership principle at Amazon. And I can be very confident that 95% of you will get asked customer obsession at some point if you make it all the way through. So please go and get that and enjoy it. We are done. People are now hemorrhaging. They're off for a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever it is. So thank you so much for joining today. For those of you who came back and you've got your jobs in Amazon, thank you very much for coming back. I so appreciate your support and coming back and showing your face. For those of you with interviews coming up, I wish you the very best of luck. If you do have further questions, just put a comment on a video on YouTube. I generally turn around questions in about 24 hours, so it won't be too long behind you. And as I said, go get your free course. Seriously, there's just no reason not to. Totally free, no strings attached. It can only help. Right. I'm going for my dinner now. It's late evening here in the UK. Please be safe, everybody. The world continues to be an insane place. So look after yourselves, look after your family. Good luck with your prep. And I will hopefully see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.